Hello everyone, welcome to Learn for Taraqi. Today we are going to learn about what is Apollo GraphQL, what are the products Apollo GraphQL offer to build GraphQL application in the JavaScript world. We are going to see all the products from the Apollo GraphQL website, and then we are going to apply those concepts, those products into the monolithic application, then to the microservices application. Let's get started. So I'm going to show you Apollo GraphQL website first, then we'll see what are the products, how the website shows all those product line. Then I will simplify those stuff for you so that it will be making sense basis on the problem statement at hand. So we are sitting on the Apollo GraphQL website. Here you see some of the big clients are mentioned on the Apollo site. Some few of them, Netflix, PayPal, Walmart, they all are using Apollo GraphQL in production. So let's understand what are the product line Apollo offers. If we go to the platform, you will see what are the open source chain of products that Apollo GraphQL offers. One is Apollo Client, Apollo Federation, and tooling. And let us simplify those stuff for you. So let's understand Apollo GraphQL product line from the monolithic application standpoint. We already see that there are 4 products that Apollo GraphQL provide. One is Apollo GraphQL Client, GraphQL Server, Apollo Studio, and some other tools alongside. Now let's apply this Apollo GraphQL in the monolithic application. Suppose you are building a monolithic application, or you have a brownfield or existing monolithic application that you have built using Node.js plus Express combination or Node.js plus XYZ framework. So when we make a GraphQL application, or when we add GraphQL capability into the application, so what happens? A client has to make a GraphQL request to the server, and the server has to pass that request, process that request, and send back the response to the client, right? So the request is always be HTTP post and /GraphQL endpoint with the request, and request body contains the GraphQL query, right? So in the client side, the client application can be in web application, single page application, iOS, Android, etc. All this needs some sort of HTTP library to make that GraphQL request, that is HTTP post request. Now, what is the lacking feature here? So basically all the request is on HTTP post, which is not cacheable, and there are single page applications which makes use of state management like React, Angular, Vue, right? So these clients require some sort of functionality which gives caching, state management out of the box. But if we do not apply any solution, built-in solution, then we have to write those stuff ourselves. So to ease that process, Apollo gives us Apollo Client, Apollo GraphQL Client, that we can make use of it. So primarily they are officially supporting React. So they have Apollo React GraphQL Client, but there are different client-side libraries for Angular, Vue, etc. that you can apply. We can make use of the Apollo GraphQL React Client to have the state management and caching capabilities out of the box. So this is one product utilization. So here, if you use Apollo GraphQL React Client or Angular or Vue clients, etc., so you do not have to build your backend application with the Apollo server. It's not mandatory. You can simply make use of the Apollo GraphQL clients in your product line and start making the GraphQL request. That is one thing. Obviously, there are certain niche features which requires the Apollo server as well. May not be coming into play, but yeah, you can get started and have this Apollo client available in your product. Now let's talk about the server. If the server is built using Node.js plus any combination of a framework like Express, Fastify, etc. So all this Apollo provides packages for all these frameworks combination. So whenever you want to have the Apollo, have the GraphQL capability into your application, then you can make use of those Apollo packages, server specific packages. So if you see the diagram, that Node.js plus GraphQL.js, and I've shown the Apollo GraphQL server framework specific package. You need to choose the framework specific package to make sure that your GraphQL capability baked in within the server application. Suppose you are having Node plus Express, then you can choose Apollo Express package. If you have Node plus Fastify, you can choose the Apollo Fastify package. So this way, the GraphQL capability can be added by using Apollo server specific packages. Now come back to the Apollo different other products of Apollo GraphQL. One is the Apollo CLI, which is used to generate client-side code, and also this Apollo CLI were having server-side interaction, but Apollo CLI now is partially deprecated. Now it is being replaced by the server side portion of it is replaced by Apollo rover CLI, where if you have to run the command for the client, you can make use of Apollo CLI. It is still working for that, but for the server interaction, like if you want to interact with the Apollo server, or you want to interact with the Apollo Studio, or you want to have it available within the CI/CD pipeline, you can make use of the Apollo rover CLI. And Apollo Studio is a self-hosted Apollo hosted application. You can say you can make use of Apollo Studio to make GraphQL requests similar to GraphQL Playground or Graphql, and it also has various other plus features within Apollo Studio. Some of the features, the major features is freely available, but if you go with the enterprise versions, you will be getting the more metrics and support from the Apollo itself, right? So you can get started with Apollo Studio, and if you think that you need to switch to enterprise version, definitely you can switch to the enterprise versions smoothly. Let us learn about Apollo Gateway, which is an implementation of GraphQL Federation, how it fits in the microservices world. Now, suppose you are building microservice application with GraphQL capability, or you have an existing microservices application where you want to fit in the GraphQL capability, right? Now, suppose you are not aware of GraphQL gateway, or there is no GraphQL gateway at all. Then what is the problem? Now, every client, that is I'm showing on the left hand side. So every client has to make a call to the microservice separately in order to get the response. Now, suppose you are having a query with fetching the user data, and alongside user data you want subscription data of the user. So in that case, that request, how your client will make sure that request lands for the user data, it lands on the user service, and for the subscription data, it lands on the subscription service, right? So for that purpose, the client has to be intelligent enough. If we bake such feature within the client, then client becomes thick, and we have to do a lot of maintenance on the client side. So to avoid that, all those stuff needs to be delegated to separate server, where that separate server will accept the client request, accept the client GraphQL request, and then it will make those decisions and routing on behalf of the client. Instead of the client is doing the job, that particular server will do that job and make the request to the appropriate microservice and aggregate the response and send back the response to the client. So this is what Apollo gateway concept is, or I would say that GraphQL federation concept is, where the Apollo gateway is an implementation of that federation concept. So that's how Apollo GraphQL gateway should be utilized as a middleman to accept request and send the request to the appropriate microservices. So in case of microservices world, we have to use, or we should use, a gateway, GraphQL gateway, to accept the incoming request and send the request to the appropriate microservices. Now in the microservices world, the entire graph entire schema is termed as super graph, and all microservices specific GraphQL schema is termed as subgraph, right? So supergraph and subgraph concept is there in Apollo. So whenever you read the documentation, make sure that you read about, whenever you read about subgraph or supergraph, it means that you are reading about some sort of GraphQL federation or something like that. If you read about unfederated graph or monolithic graph, it means that it applies to the monolithic application where there is no need of using federation, right? So recently Apollo has added Apollo router, which is built using the Rust language, and as per Apollo, it is performant compared to Apollo gateway. And Apollo router is more of a binary. We just have to spin this Apollo router with configuration, and that's it. But in case of Apollo gateway, we have to run the Node.js application and use Apollo gateway as a library, and then it will start accepting the request from the client and then send the request to the microservices accordingly. So this is about the Apollo products. So in a nutshell, Apollo offers 4 products: Apollo client, Apollo server, Apollo Studio, Apollo gateway, right? And other than that, Apollo offers Apollo CLI, rover CLI. We learned about what is Apollo GraphQL, what are the products Apollo GraphQL offers, and how we can apply those products in building monolithic and microservice application with GraphQL. Thank you so much for watching. Please consider subscribing if you do not want to miss any upcoming videos in this series. Till then, bye bye.